A big welcome back to the Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes, and this afternoon, I'm delighted to be joined by Chris McElwain and Sean Connolly for the post-match reaction to Ross County 1, Celtic 2. I'm going to come to yourself first, Sean, because winning the league is not easy, and you have certain chapters where it's fluid and it's swashbuckling, and you're putting teams to the sword, and you have other afternoons like today, where Ross County, by the way, I think they soaked it up really, really well in the first half. They got the lead and they were resolute and disciplined and they stuck to the game plan and they made it difficult for Celtic. But somehow, champions find a way. It's one of those afternoons, Sean, for me.
Yeah, look, if our defenders had played with the same sort of commitment that the Ross County defenders had, if we'd had that on Tuesday, then we'd have only lost 5-1 to Dortmund with the sort of commitment that those Ross County players were showing. There's the one there, the one in the first half where Kuhn is just about to tap it in and your man Campbell just comes out of nowhere. And then there was the one just early in the second half there where Maeda's through and goal and the guy just legs from here to like Perth just manages to reach out and get a touch on it. It was some great committed, and look, we were looking like we're struggling, and then what breaks the deadlock is obviously a sublime finish from Alistair Johnson. Shaped his hips.
There was a shake of the hip.
Yeah, there was a shim. Yeah, it was a shimmy. Yeah, it was. I think it was going wide, but like you take it, he's in the right spot, and you absolutely take it. He knew what he was doing, even if it wasn't particularly planned. We'll take winning ugly. It's not the first time we've won late up in Dingwall, and it was the last time we would won late up in Dingwall. It was quite a pivotal game in winning the title that year. So it could well be one of the ones we look back on this year as well.
No, without a doubt. The shimmy of the hips, it's something you can practice, apparently. We spoke to Lubo about how he used to practice trapping the ball with his backside, Chris. AJ, I thought AJ today obviously had injury problems over the last few weeks, being left at the Canada squad as a result of them. I thought
we've lost him. We knew he was he's soaking up all the Wi-Fi in Fife, so he's gone. I'll jump in there because I'm pretty sure he was covering. Oh, you're back.
I'm just saying how good that AJ was, not in a spectacular way. Stuck to the task all day.
Yeah, I think you live with a few of the players. I mean, there's an overriding sense of relief after a game, and that tells you you've been in the match. I agree with you. I think credit where it's due. I think Ross County showed some brilliant commitment. We're very, they would have been worth at least a draw in that game had they got it, but I'm very pleased that they didn't. We said at half time, we need our players to take shots, right? I mean, that's the ball. You take a shot, even if it's not on target, like McGregor's wasn't, you get the lucky break or the very deliberate hip shimmy, as AJ I'm sure will claim, to put it into the net. But ultimately, it came from the fact that we started to press. We started to show a bit of urgency and a bit of impetus. I think the substitutes helped that. I thought McCowan came on again, kind of did what I wanted and showed a wee bit of aggression in the middle of the park. A little bit of aggression, a little bit of attitude.
Loves a dink into the back post, doesn't he? Mixes it up.
I tell you what he doesn't do. He doesn't shirk away from anything. He doesn't shy away from challenges. He throws himself in there, and he doesn't mind giving a bit of verbal as well. He kind of reminds me a little bit of Scott Brown in his early days there. So pleased with that. I thought Bernardo come on and actually did something that our midfield hadn't done up to that point. Bernardo came in and he kind of took charge. At times there were points, and it was evidenced at one point. It was a big stramash down at the one of our corner flags. 3 or 4 players involved, and Bernardo went in, snatched the ball, drove it forward, and it was just that
just
element.
Before the goal. Yeah,
I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, I just liked it. It was intent. It was the way the intent was picking the ball up, taking it, and saying, right, I've got this. I'm taking a bit of ownership, and off you go. And that was excellent for me. So there were positives in the match, but it's an ugly win. But sometimes you have to win ugly if you're going to win the championship, and today evidenced that.
Yeah, you're right. I'm glad you brought up Bernardo and his involvement, whereby there was that melee over in the corner flag, and the ball wasn't actually moving; it was being protected. And he came in and he showed great composure.
Yes.
And that led to the move that led to the goal, and it was all important. But again, it's great to have these options, Sean. Engels is a quality player, we know that. So is Hatate. Today wasn't their day. Bernardo comes in, McCowan comes in, and that's what it's all about: improving the squad, isn't it?
Yeah, McCowan was great. And that one you were talking about there, where Bernardo goes in, and wins that back. I think even if you go upstream a little bit, Trusty just fighting to stop it going out for a corner as well, keeps it in that situation. And then I think immediately after that, the ball is coming down for space, and McCowan just kills it dead, and that's what wins the free kick. And because of those three actions, Ross County have got players up the pitch, and that's how we managed to get, for the first time in the entire second half, and potentially the entire game, Kuhn actually gets to cut inside and find space, because every time he's cutting inside before that, there's traffic. But the fight from Trusty and from Bernardo, the touch from Luke McCowan, and even getting up and taking the quick free kick as well, all lead to Kuhn getting that chance on the counter-attack, getting the space. I will just add as a footnote, he probably should have got a red card. He should have got a second yellow for going into the crowd. Glad he didn't, but if you're following the rules, that should have been, a second yellow. But and it wouldn't have made a difference to the result, I don't think. But I think whoever we're playing next will be aggrieved at that.
Yeah, I mean, on the subject of Kuhn, right, and if I do drop out for any of the Fife Wi-Fi reasons, I'm sure that the boys will be able to carry on through. Kuhn, for me, has been sensational this season. I thought he was really poor against Dortmund. And you know what? I don't think he was great today. And when the substitution was happening, I was thinking to myself, I was a wee bit surprised, actually, that Maida came off. It was the right decision. But the example I'm going to give is a game in the second season under Ange Postecoglou where Jota was having a similar game against St Mirren away from home. He was having a horror show, and he managed to score a goal by digging one out. You know what I mean? And it was like a real character building process for Jota, whereby it's not all about the shimmies and it's not all about taking players on in the glory. Sometimes in Scottish football, you just need to dig out a win. And for me, Kuhn had that kind of day today, Chris, whereby he's had all the plaudits from the fans. I mean, before going into the Dortmund game, averaging a goal or assist every 43 minutes, he's looked great. But on days like today, sometimes it's just like roll the sleeves up and get a win. And you know what? It can build and galvanise the team spirit and the mentality of that team when you get days like today. And I think Kuhn came through it.
He did. And look, I think every player's, should have the attitude that you've got to play and push and try for the 90 plus minutes. Even if you have 89 minutes worth of a crap game, if you pardon the expression, you've still got a minute there to go and do something that can win you a match. And I think every player should have that sort of belief. I always remember when I spoke to Bobby Petta, and Bobby, for whatever anyone thinks of him, I still remember him really fondly in that Martin O'Neill team. But he spoke about what he wants to see from a winner is just players who play with no fear. He just wants them to pick up the ball and run. And he said 9 times out of 10 they'll not produce anything, but that one time out of 10 they'll get something that'll win you a game. And I think that was evidenced by Kuhn today. I thought he didn't stop trying throughout the game. It wasn't working. It wasn't working for the bulk of the game, and I was starting to shout at the TV myself a little bit, when I was watching him. But he's got that in his locker. He's got that ability. If he just gets into the right position, and you see he just curls that one, goes right across goal, curls it, absolutely beautiful. And a great way to win it. And yeah, I mean, similar to you guys, I was a bit worried that he was going to get that yellow card because, let's face it, you'd have probably put your house on that happening. But no, thankfully he didn't, and we managed to hold out for the win.
Was the first Scott Brown got one, remember? He got a red card for doing that.
Yeah. Listen, I'm going to ask you, Sean, as a resident ref, was the first yellow card a bit harsh on Kuhn? I mean, I know they were talking about motioning. Did he motion ahead? But I thought it was.
I think the ref got one right. Even though the guys cheated, like sometimes you can just give them both a talking to, but they're both at it. The guys dived. It's not a red card in any way, but when two players are given an aggro like that, it's probably a good idea to yellow card them, and it just kind of nips it in the bud and just stops them.
I was just thinking whether that would maybe be in the referee's mind, or this would be harsh given the nature of the first one. But thankfully, he didn't send him off, and we look forward to Willie Collum's view on that whenever he appears on YouTube again.
Well, that one's not part of that wouldn't be a VAR reviewable decision, I don't think. So because it wouldn't be a straight red, so I don't think there'll be any public statements from the SFA on that one. But I think Clancy will get told privately.
He'll get told. Yes, he will receive that memo, won't he? Quarterback Punk, you could have said anything, but because your comment had the word Stramash in it, I brought it up. We need to talk about that corner Stramash. I love that. But, boys, how we scored from that, pure class. Yeah, we love a good Stramash. And 2G and 5, Big Bruce, I can't wait for Thursday night for the launch of Channel 5 and 5. So thanks for reminding me. But I do want to talk about Baye. I thought he was decent. He looks, I mean, and I was going to ask you this question, right? He's on the park in place of one of the most maligned players in the Celtic defence, Greg Taylor. If Taylor had played like that, would we be giving him the same level of praise, Chris? Is there a perception here? Because I do think Baye played really well. I thought there was 3 or 4 crosses that he put in that were wicked, and on another day he might have got a couple of assists. He looked really comfortable on the ball. Doesn't always take the obvious pass. He was good, but don't we see performances like that on a regular from Greg Taylor?
Yeah, it's the eye test again. I would agree to an extent. I think Baye had a good game today. I think he was solid, if not spectacular defensively, but I really liked him going forward. I thought it was good going forward. I really liked the ability to find himself in that overlapping position, getting to the point where he can whip in a cross. Because I hate it when we try and throw in high crosses to Diogo. It's just not going to get there. But he recognised whipping the crosses in. He was unlucky not to get the ball through on a few occasions. And what he also showed was his ability to never give up on the ball as well as one that came racing back to him, and he kept it in and had another bite of the cherry, which was great. So liked his attitude, liked some of his output today. Thought it was good. Very early to judge him against Greg Taylor. Would Taylor have got the same praise? I would like to think so, because I think there's a softening in the stance towards Greg Taylor, because he does put in some really good performances and very similar performances from an attacking sense. I don't think Baye's had to put up with the defensive test so far that Taylor's had to put up with, and we know Greg can be a bit suspect when it comes to the defensive side of his game, but I think Taylor's a stalwart on merit in this team. Again, I thought he was one of the guys who just was really not on it on Tuesday night. I thought he looked completely out of his depth, but he was one of a group of players in that case. So I'm not going to berate him too much for that. I just think that game's in the past now. We've got to look forward. I would still like to see an alternative type of left-sided defender or left back to work alongside Taylor. I don't think we've got much hope of keeping Baye from what I've heard. Don't quote me on that or bookmark it, but I don't think much hope will hold on to him past this season. I think he's quite highly regarded in Spain, and on today's evidence you can see why. So I still think it's a position that we have work to do in, whether that's alongside Taylor or as a replacement for Taylor if we don't manage to hold on to him. But yeah, today it was quite refreshing to see the young fella come in and actually, he was another one, a bit like McCown. He doesn't look overawed. He looks like he's quite happy to pick up the challenge and contribute for the full 90 minutes. So yeah, good on him. I thought he was good today.
Yeah, it was. What was your take on him, Sean?
I thought he was excellent. I thought potentially man of the match for me. He was the kind of difference between him and Taylor is Taylor is less likely to hit the byline. Baye looked a little bit faster. And he showed some good touches and turns. They were actually targeting him at the start of the game. I noticed, the set pieces were going to their right winger a lot, and they kind of went away from it as the game went on. So I think they realised they weren't getting any change out of him. And it's funny because he was one of the ones that some people were slaughtering in the Falkirk game, and I just thought, he just needs a bit of time. I remember, if you remember, he got physically bullied a little bit in that game, but he's certainly. He didn't have as much defending to do today, certainly in the second half, but he was a great attacking threat, and to the point where anytime we went out on the right, I was like, why are we even trying to attack down this side? Get it over there, and Baye is just absolutely getting past them on the overlap every single time, and I thought we should have been trying to exploit that even more. But yeah, I thought he was great. I thought Trusty had a great game as well. I thought Luke McCown, when he came on, was excellent. I can see at the corner of my eye that I think they're interviewing Kuhn for man of the match, which is pretty standard when someone scores a winning goal. But for me, the best players were Baye, Trusty, and McCown, and you maybe have Bernardo just in behind there.
What about I mean, even yesterday, I said this at the beginning of the game, guys, when I was listening to the radio yesterday, and they were having a right good dig at Trusty, Chris. I mean, all I was hearing was, and this was strange for me, he's not at the level of Cameron Carter-Vickers, and I'm thinking to myself, he's played one Champions League game at this stage. This was yesterday, I was listening to this. He'd started one domestic game for Celtic against St Johnstone, yet you're already writing him off. And today was a different challenge, altogether. And it was good that we pointed out the fact that his work up top left was noticed, because he was injured by that stage. He wasn't moving freely. He certainly wasn't moving freely. But it was just that knee-jerk reaction, Chris, and I'm not saying of the Celtic fans, of the media, to write off Trusty after a couple of games.
It's par for the course, and you pay, and we paid pretty big money for Trusty comparatively, but I think you have to give players time. We've spoken about it so often. I mean, Kuhn's a great example, right? I mean, he came in last January and really, for what a multitude of reasons, just never had the immediate standards that we're seeing now. You have to give players time to settle in, new team, new environment, new training facilities, new opposition, teams you've never played. His first Champions League game he's in against last year's finalists, and who were, I don't think could have played any better had they tried. So I think we have to show a bit of patience with Trusty. I think somebody made a good point on the comments at half-time. He's a left footer. He's same as Scales, but he's playing on the right hand side, and that in itself can be a challenge because it can unbalance players, from what I understand.
Patrick Roberts.
absolutely. But I think let's give him a bit of time. Let's allow him to bed in, build up maybe a partnership. Obviously, Carter-Vickers, we know what he can do. He's a known commodity. Scales, I think, is now starting to get some of the recognition he deserves. I mean, okay, bad decision for the penalty today, but it's happened. Outside of that, I don't think he done much wrong today. And I think, Trusty needs to be given similar levels of patience and give him the opportunity to show what he can do. Where would I see him going forward? Where would I see him actually replacing one or the other, or always as a third choice? I think he's very much rooted as a third choice just now, because I think Carter-Vickers will come back in. But for me, he's doing enough good to merit, certainly more appearances and more opportunities to see what he can bring to the table. So yeah, I thought it was decent.
Yeah, it was. It absolutely was decent. Now, Sean, when you look at the way, and it was easy to say at half-time, we need more urgency, we need more tempo, etc., etc. We didn't seem to get that until we made the changes. And the changes were made bang on the 60-minute mark, like we predicted at half-time. But there are some games where it's like that. You just need that injection of a different type of player at times, not particularly or necessarily a better player. Because when you look at the substitutions, right, Bernardo comes on for Engels, McKeown comes on for Atati, Kyogo comes on for Ida. We could argue all day as to who's the best player, those departing or those coming on the park. But it did give us that spark, didn't it? And then Forrest, we can't forget, I think Forrest as well, when he came on, gave us that spark. He was willing to take shots from outside the box, even if it just resulted in a save or winning a corner. Get the ball in there, because we weren't doing enough of that in the first half. And again, when you look at Brendan Rodgers, it's a case of, at times, you've got to rely on the players. It can't always be on the manager. The manager was getting a lot of stick during the week for his approach to the Dortmund game. But we had enough quality on that park prior to the substitutions. It just wasn't happening. Sometimes you need that spark. But the key for me is that the players that came on, every single one of them contributed. You look at Bernardo. We mentioned the thing that might be overlooked down in the corner flag when we're defending the ball. McKeown gets the assist, but Kyogo's movement for AJ's goal. Yeah, he drags all the defenders to the front post, and it leaves AJ and Akers' space. So I think the substitutions were excellent, and you've got to take that off with the smooth. So you've also got to give Rodgers a bit of credit today, because he's been getting stick all week.
Yeah, and I think as well, when Ross County started to make subs, their quality dropped off a little bit as well. So there's a little bit of that aspect to it too. But yeah, I thought that, there was a very clear difference in the midfield when Bernardo and McKeown came on in place of Engels and Atati, who weren't having a great game, and it did make a difference. and you're talking about Forrest. One thing I did notice is because obviously McCown was on with Maeda before Forrest came on, and McCown, you guys mentioned earlier that he kept putting those balls just thinking in behind for Maeda, and Maeda wasn't making the runs really, and I think that was picked up by the commentators in the game too. And then when Forrest comes on, Forrest doesn't make those runs. So what McCown is actually doing at that point is showing that he's like not just doing it arbitrarily. He's showing that he's adapting and it's showing some game intelligence, and he's playing like crossfield balls to Forrest's feet instead of in behind. So he's got an adaptability to his game. I like the way he played. He wanted the ball and he knew what to. Well, more often than not, knew what to do with it, and he had a real positive contribution.
He's got a feistiness about him, which I like. He's got a real kind of but one of these kind of teeth gnashing type players, which I like. I think we've had too many nice guys. I quite like the idea of McCowan, who I'm sure is a nice guy, generally. But he looks like he's got just that wee bit of needle in him, which I like. I like to see that.
Yeah, it's the first league game this season that we've conceded a goal. But indeed, we have won 7-7, and we sit pretty at the top of the table with a maximum of 21 points. First time we've done that in something like 14 years. Obviously, you then pass over to the other fixtures today. Aberdeen and Rangers, our closest challengers, will be in contention. Near the end of the game, they were talking, Chris, about Aberdeen leapfrogging Celtic. They were getting a little bit carried away. Some might say I got carried away earlier this season by saying Aberdeen would finish second. Alan Shearer during the week reckons they can push Celtic. I don't agree with that one. But they're a side that if they stay in touch and distance by up until January, it all comes down to that transfer window at that stage. Do they have the ambition to go out and get 2 or 3 top players that will make a difference for Aberdeen? If not, they will tail away because it's all about squad depth when you get into the dark old months of the season, isn't it? But they're in touch and distance now. Can they keep it up?
I would love to see it, and not because you can take the old well. I'd love to see a team leapfrog our old rivals, but I just like the fact that we've got Scottish teams doing well outside of the Celtic and Rangers. I think it makes for a better competition. Don't get me wrong, I always, every single day of the week, want Celtic to be top of the league and beating everybody in front of us, but I like the idea of having a strong Aberdeen, even having a strong Hibs, as much as I cannot stand the club, and I'll make no bones about that, but even having a strong Hearts and seeing the good rivalries happening there, and I would love to see Scottish football just incrementally get stronger. And to do that, I think teams like Aberdeen have to show a little bit of ambition if they're ever going to break the status quo and split the 2 Glasgow teams, or even just get within touching distance and then build on that. They need to show that ambition on and off the park. So I would like to see it. I wish Aberdeen all the luck in the world, but can they do it for the end of the season? It's a big ask.
We shall see.
I'd like to see it.
By the way, I'm selfish in this respect, Sean. I just want to have a better level of team, a better level of opposition, because it improves our game. And the step between domestic and European football isn't as steep if the rest of the teams improve. And I think it's about time a club like Aberdeen, it's more wishful thinking on my part than any kind of analysis. It's about time that they stepped up, and Hearts and Hibs, these teams, and I grew up with a strong Dundee United side as well, and they've been out the picture for a long time. But it's about time they did that. And I think that I've already commented that October's matches against Aberdeen are going to be massive in respect of whether or not they're the real deal in terms of challenging for second position. Because we play them at Celtic Park, Rangers play them at Pittodrie. And I think after those 2 fixtures, we can make a reasoned kind of judgment on where they are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Once you played everyone once, then you get a real picture. As you mentioned, in terms of teams challenging, they have to be very conscious that they're never going to be able to do year-on-year sustained challenges. It has to be trying to catch lightning in a bottle, Like if you remember back to the Hibs team where they had Scott Brown, Stephen Whittaker, Kevin Thompson, Gary O'Connor, that team got picked apart very quickly. So and that's just the reality of Scottish football. So you're not going to be able to do it for 2 seasons in a row if you are going to put in that challenge. Hearts, I think, finished second that year when they had Stephen Presley and people like that. So you need to just know when your window is and hope that you can make the most of it. And this might be Aberdeen's year to catch that window to get second place. Even keep in touch going into the split after 33 games. But again, as you mentioned, we'll find out what they're really made of after 11 games. We'll get a real idea.
Yep, and you're right. If the boy Jimmy Thielen was able to do that, I'm pretty sure the vultures would be circling for him as well. Barry O'Sullivan, Kuhn produces again. Well done, boys. He's had a really good season. That wasn't, for me, one of his best games, Barry, but I thought he came through it and he showed a bit of character and a bit of mettle. David Boyle, great from Kuhn, but oh my God, how did we get away with him not being sent off for a second yellow? This is what clinical thinking and professionalism is. Kuhn was brilliant, he goes on to say, but could have been sent off. Very lucky. Yeah, we covered that. And Sean gave us the you are the ref moment. Used to get that in the Shoot magazine back in the day. And he should have been sent off. IH Decorating, great to see you on the YouTube. Bernardo has made a big difference, a huge difference to his game. Hatate continues to be the biggest myth I've ever seen in a Celtic shirt. Is that unfair, Chris? I'm a massive fan of Hatate. I really am. And to be fair, I think that what we've got now is a really good blend, because McGregor, for me, you said earlier on, maybe even he could have get taken off. McGregor's your constant, and then you've got in and around him in the midfield now a collection of midfielders who, for different games, can star. Hatate's still a big talent for me, a huge talent. Engel's coming in, huge potential, for us to spend that kind of money on him. Bernardo, I think, is going to be a steal at 3.5. McKillen for £1 million, an absolute snip. I just think we've got a really good blend in the midfield. I wish we had the same kind of options all over the park.
Yeah, I just think it's no longer about the three that start the game. I think it's about the 5 or 6 that encompass those positions now, and I think that we have to recognise that we have different options in midfield now. I think that the one constant, as you say, is McGregor. And I sometimes feels that it's almost unfair on McGregor. I thought he had a really poor first half today. I thought he grew into the game in the second half, and he sort of tried to lead a little bit by example, and he obviously took the shot that ricochets off Johnson. But overall, I didn't think it was his best game there. And I sometimes sort of think we don't do McGregor any favours by keeping him on when he's having a tough game, because he's a guy who we have to manage now, because he's not he's heading towards the twilight years of his career, and he is very, very important still to this team. Hatate, for me, he's a guy that I don't think is ever going to give you consistent and sequential 9 or 10 or 10 out of 10 performances. I don't think that's kind of player. I think he's a kind of guy who'll give you a 9 out of 10, then give you a 6 out of 10, then give you an 8 out of 10, then give you a 4 out of 10. I think it's just the way he plays. I think he's a guy who tries to innovate. He's a guy who tries to play the hero pass every opportunity he gets, and when it comes off, it's brilliant. It's Hollywood football. It's fantastic, but it's not going to come off against every team, and there are going to be games where you need more of that game management from a guy like Bernardo, or maybe even just the adaptability and movement of an Engels, who again was off it today. So I think it's about the 5 or 6 players that you've now got at your disposal, and it's finding the right combination based on your opposition. So I mean, I'm no longer thinking we've got a first choice 3 and we've got a backup 3. I just think now it's about who fits into the requirements for the opposition you're playing. And today, I thought when McCowan came on, for example, it was a perfect game for him. I just thought he was exactly what we needed at the time he came on. Bernardo, exactly the same. Engels, I mean, listen, he's an £11 million player. He's absolute quality. He is only 21 years old, and he's still trying to find his feet in the country, in the club, at the level of competition. And that was probably the worst introduction to Scottish football. A really dogged away game. Grey skies, probably cold. Horrible game to play in. But he gave it his best shot. He will get better, and he will get more used to playing in those sort of games. But what we had today was options to take him off and say, okay, good effort, off you come, son. Right, Bernardo, on you go and win this game for us. And that's what happened. So, yeah, I think it's a good problem for the manager to have. We have got different options in midfield, similar to what we've got up front with Ida and Kyogo as well. Yeah,
I think the worry for me, Sean, is on the wing. I mean, we're still relying on Forrest to come on, but I mean, Forrest is getting a shout over Yang and Palmer. And I think that's probably where we'll be looking at. And maybe, returning to some of the other areas of the defence in January as well. Because, again, you've got Nawrocki on the bench today, and you look at him and you think, is he going to come in and slot in? I think one time against Rangers, he came off the bench, and I thought he played a really good game. We beat them 2-1 in the match, obviously, that Bernardo scored in. But these are the areas that I think Brendan will revisit come January, Sean, because, as much as I thought Forrest came on and did really well today, it would be great to have another option on the wing, wouldn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Forrest is not getting younger, and the commentator on the match mentions Palma getting stripped, and then he never. I don't know. It's weird, confusing one. But yeah, you're right. It would be good to get another quality option in there. Maybe another Nicholas Kuhn if we can find one. But then again, Maeda and Kuhn are very clearly the first choice. So is somebody else going to be happy to come in and play second fiddle or be a rotating player? I guess Austin Trusty was kind of that, and now he's almost a first team player in a rotation. We easily can accommodate 4 centre midfielders, even though there's only 3 spots, because that's just how we have to rotate the number of players that are in there. So yeah, I think you're right. I think all respect to Jamesy Forrest, but I think we can certainly upgrade on Palma and get someone a bit better in that rotation. That'd be great, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Palma was just getting stripped for his Instagram reel for tonight, Chris, because he didn't have much content to put out on Sunday night. Valle Outstanding says Godafis Semtex, and Paul Leinster says the same. Valle, very good today. 2 weeks now to reset, says Boheed Bob. Don't forget, we are playing Sligo Rovers on Wednesday night. It's a PPV event, so we will be covering that game on Wednesday night as well. Why not? Let's see if we can get some kind of hybrid team. Who knows who might get a game? How does Odin Home get a game of football these days, Chris? This was a big discussion we were having during the week in relation to even connecting it into the transfer thing and how transfers might change in the future. Yeah. Celtic need to be better at producing footballers anyway, but we need to have a hybrid team, not just a B team that's languishing in the 5th tier of the Lowland League and all this kind of stuff, right? We need to have a hybrid team that's got the best of the youth, plus your fringe players that are not playing football, playing within the pyramid of Scottish football, similar to Club Bruges, because that's where Engels was able to get his experience as a first-team footballer in the 2nd tier of Belgian football. So yes, we will be covering the Sligo Rovers game. Thanks everybody for getting involved. Michael McDonald, Aberdeen will fancy their chances against us, and if we play like that, yeah, I think they will. Hopefully it's a different day. Ewan boy, how's your trip to Thailand going? Didn't see the game as I'm sitting in the departure lounge waiting to board the plane. Thought I was heading off in a bad mood, but fingers crossed it's a win, and I am happy with that. Well, you enjoy your trip, my friend. Patrick.
How can you be flying to Thailand in a bad mood? Come on, he's just rubbing it in at this point.
I know, he's a troubadour, he really is. This is what champions do. They find a way when it's not plain sailing, 100%. Resilience, well done the hoop, says Joe Hamilton, and we'll leave you with that. We'll be back, of course, tomorrow at 12:30, as always, on the Acsom Bulletin. I hope you enjoyed the interview we did, or the discussion we had, rather, with David Heyman on Friday night. He was just such a humble human being. He's the real deal. That's how I'd describe him, the real deal. Go and watch it. It's on the channel. Subscribe to the channel as well, because we're coming out every single Friday night with a new guest. We're on every single day, and we cover every single match as well on the live streams. So get involved. And again, come and see us. We're with Strack and John Hartson on the 25th of October. Something like 30 odd tickets now available, so the link is underneath this video. And if you fancy voting for Acsom at this year's international awards, then do so. We're up for Best Podcast and Best Influencer. Link under the video. All that's left for me to say, Sean and Chris, thank you for joining me on A Celtic State of Mind.
Hello.
Guys.